Hey guys, Aaron CybertronVGC here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online Regulation E VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'll be trying out one of my favorite teams right now, which is a really unique rain team that finished in the top 8, top 16, and top 32 of the Toronto Regional Championships. It drew my eye in particular because it has one of my all-time favorite Pokemon in Salamence, and it also has a fun Pelipper set with Weather Ball as well as Wide Guard and Focus Sash, and a Nasty Plot Leftovers Gholdengo, which just is so strong right now. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of the team, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down in the description below, and thanks so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, would really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a ton. Anyway, let's just dive into things. Breaking things down, as always, rental, pace, and team creators are linked down in the description below, and question of the day, with this team featuring Salamence, which is one of my all-time favorite Pokemon, I want to know what your favorite Dragon-type Pokemon is down in the comments section below. Now, first of all, this team was built by 3 of the best players in the world. It features Shiliang Tang as well as Justin Tang and Gavin Michaels, and if you follow the VGC circuit at all, you'll recognize all of those names because they all won huge championships in the previous season. So it's really cool to see them come together and put together this team for the Toronto Regional Championships, and they, as I mentioned, finished in the top 8, top 16, and top 32, and that tournament had hundreds of participants, and so really cool to see so many incredible players work together and build such an awesome team. I was drawn to it because, first of all, it's Regulation E, but it doesn't actually feature any brand new Pokemon from the DLC, and it has some really cool picks like Salamence and Pelipper, which are really low on the usage ratings right now. It also features Iron Bundle, which has been quite good throughout some of the previous formats, but not used nearly as much right now. The first Pokemon I want to talk about is this Salamence. Now, Salamence is an awesome pick for a couple of reasons. First of all, it can actually deal pretty meaningful damage. A special flying type is just really valuable in this format when there are a lot of Pokemon that are weak to flying type attacks. Things like Amoonguss and Ogerpon and Rillaboom, for example. Draco Meteor is also really nice to hit Dragon type Pokemon and just deal meaningful damage. And Choice Scarf Tailwind is a really cool combination as well, and is kind of an unexpected means of speed control. Now, this team I feel like is very heavily designed around Gholdengo setting up and dealing as much damage as possible. So part of the idea is that Salamence synergizes really nicely with Gholdengo because you resist a lot of the types that otherwise hit Gholdengo for good damage, especially like fire type attacks, for example. You're immune to ground type attacks, which otherwise give Gholdengo a lot of trouble. So even something like Salamence and Gholdengo as a lead puts on pressure where you have Intimidate immediately. That helps out against physical attackers. Gholdengo can just start setting up a Nasty Plot, and then you go from there. So Flying Terra is also really nice, and it allows you to actually get knockouts with something like a Flying Terra Air Slash or Flying Terra Hurricane. Hurricane is not the most reliable attack, but because you have Pelipper on this team, it is really nice in enabling those Hurricanes to be more accurate. And so sometimes you can go for something like an immediate Flying Terra Hurricane, bring in Pelipper, and then just surprise your opponent with a one-hit knockout onto something that is weak to Hurricane, like Amoonguss, for example. Pelipper is also really cool on this team, as you'll notice this Pelipper doesn't have Tailwind, it has Wide Guard, Hurricane, Weather Ball, and Protect. Now, Wide Guard I think is one of the most underrated moves in VGC right now. There are so many spread moves that are used in this format, whether it be things like Rock Slide and Earthquake from Landorus Therian, Dazzling Gleam from Fluttermane, Make It Rain from Gholdengo, and so having a way to block all of those is a really big deal. Weather Ball also just does meaningful damage, and Hurricane is nice to, once again, cover for those kind of grass-type Pokemon, and just Pokemon that don't take flying-type attacks really well. We're in a format where there are a lot of grass types, right? I mentioned Amoonguss, I mentioned Ogerpon, I mentioned Rillaboom, and so putting on pressure against all of those is really nice. Pelipper is also awesome on this team because it sets up the rain, and there's no Swift Swim user on this team, but setting up the rain is still valuable because it reduces the super effective hits onto Gholdengo from fire-type attacks as well as Amoonguss. What that means is you don't necessarily have to commit your Terra on these Pokemon in order to get, for example, your Nasty Plots off or your Spores off. And that's really nice because Terra on this team is a really big deal as well. So Pelipper is used to support some of these Pokemon, but also actually deal meaningful damage. And Wide Guard is just such a good support move. Even one single Wide Guard can save a game often. And so, yeah, I think sometimes when people see Pelipper, they just expect like max speed, max special attack. And you, of course, could run another attack over Weather Ball, something like Hydro Pump, for example. But the downside is Hydro Pump's not very consistent, whereas Weather Ball at least is kind of guaranteed damage. And there's not like that much weather in the format, especially other weathers that aren't rain. Like Sun does exist and Sand does exist. Snow exists to an extent with the low and Ninetales as well. But at the end of the day, I think like Weather Ball is just consistent, and you don't don't have to deal with having really inaccurate attacks. Part of the downside with this team is you actually do have a fair amount of inaccurate attacks, right? Especially from Salamence, like none of its moves are 100% accurate, and Iron Bundle as well. So like I said, though, I think like this team is very heavily centered around Gholdengo, so I often think about how to best build around Gholdengo. So the reality is you can really lead anything with Gholdengo and put on a lot of pressure, but like Iron Hands Gholdengo, you can pressure with Fake Out plus Nasty Plot, for example. Salamence Gholdengo, pressure with Intimidate. Iron Hands and Salamence is actually one of my favorite leads with this team. This Iron Hands set is pretty straightforward. It's just an Assault Vest set with Fake Out, Heavy Slam, Wild Charge, Drain Punch, but very heavily invested into attack and special defense, which isn't very shocking. And of course, the idea is that you just deal massive amounts of damage with this Pokemon while also putting on pressure with Fake Out. And so Hands and Salamence is really nice because you can put on pressure with Fake Out, get an Intimidate, maybe deal some early damage, and then position Gholdengo afterwards. The final two Pokemon on this team are Amoonguss. This Amoonguss is pretty straightforward, just almost max HP, max defense with the Citrus Berry and Spore and Pollen Puff. A very good partner for Gholdengo because, of course, you can put things to sleep and then also heal your teammates up with the Pollen Puff, and it is just Amoonguss. It continues to be a really solid Pokemon in this format, and surprisingly a little bit underplayed right now. The final Pokemon on this team is Iron Bundle. Now, it's interesting because I'm recording this actually after playing with the team, and I think that I didn't use Iron Bundle as well as I could have, because this is actually a super bulky Iron Bundle set. And so I'm normally used to like these really frail Iron Bundle sets, and so if you're watching the battles, I'm like, oh, well, I don't really want to bring Bundle because it's just too frail. I don't feel very confident with it. But part of what makes this bundle really unique is that it actually does have so much bulk. You actually have very little special attack and speed investment. So with this spread, you're surviving a lot more attacks than your opponents will generally anticipate. And so, yeah, I think like Bundle is interesting because it provides good speed control with Icy Wind with Gholdengo, and so you can of course still deal massive amounts of damage with it, but the speed control is really nice because Gholdengo often will be in a position where you've set up Nasty Plots, and Bundle having this amount of bulk can just survive attacks a little bit better and then go for Icy Winds. I generally have like used Salamence a little bit more when trying to get speed control because Tailwind is just really nice, rather than relying on Icy Wind potentially missing, for example. But this bundle is unique in that it is a lot bulkier than most bundles that you have probably seen or are used to playing with, and that's one thing that I actually didn't really do a very good job of taking note of when using this team. And so I think, yeah, if you're watching the battles, spoiler alert, but I think, yeah, I could have done a better job utilizing Bundle in particular. At the end of the day, though, you have to consider where is your damage going to come from when using this team. I think Gholdengo and Iron Hands are by far your most consistent damage dealers. The thing is like Salamence, Pelipper, and Bundle can deal really good damage, especially against Pokemon where it gets super effective hits against, but it's not as consistent. So as a result, I do think this team is very heavily centered around just Gholdengo, enabling it as much as possible, with Fake Out support, with speed control from Bundle and Salamence, with Pelipper reducing the super effective fire attacks, and with Amoonguss being able to provide utility as well. So that's it for a quick breakdown. A lot of different ways that you can utilize the team, but some leads I really like include Hands Gholdengo, Hands Salamence, Amoonguss Gholdengo. You can lead something like Pelipper Bundle if you just want to apply a lot of offensive pressure with like Hydro Pump immediately. Bundle Salamence is interesting as well, where you can like Icy Wind or Freeze Dry and then just like combo with really fast Pokemon to get some quick knockouts, but those are just some ways that I've considered using the team. So in terms of weaknesses, I think one thing to note is that this team does often heavily center around Gholdengo, and so if you don't utilize Gholdengo well, you can be left with a lack of offense. And so, for example, I think ways that you can beat the Gholdengo are just putting on a lot of pressure right away. For example, one lead that I went up against was Indeedee with Psychic Seed and Dark Terra, Choice Band, Wicked Blow, or Shifu, and they just were able to force a Terra out of Gholdengo, and I couldn't really safely set up Nasty Plot, but Make It Rain also doesn't do that much damage, and so that put me in a really difficult position. I think Gholdengo also has a really good defensive Terra with Dragon Terra, but you can potentially take advantage of that. For example, Fluttermane and Shampoo are both common Pokemon in this format, and both of those Pokemon can threaten Gholdengo with super effective hits before Terra and after Terra. And if you make a good read against this Gholdengo and predict the Terra as it comes out and hit it with a super effective hit, that can feel really bad as well. And so baiting out the Terra from this, and baiting out a Terra from this team in general early, can be really valuable because it limits the amount of defensive plays that you can make. One other thing to note is that this team relies very heavily on special attackers. Gholdengo is obviously going to be the main one, but Bundle, Pelipper, Salamence, Amoonguss, all of these deal special damage. And so having Pokemon that are very specially invested and maybe even have an Assault Vest, for example, can be really valuable in breaking through with this team. And I think because Gholdengo is one of the main cornerstones of this team, having Pokemon that can take the combination of Make It Rain plus Shadow Ball is just pretty valuable, especially Make It Rain. I think this is just such a good move, and so if you have Pokemon that resist Steel type attacks, it makes it a little bit harder for Gholdengo to just spam Make It Rain and get knockouts across the board. But Assault Vest Pokemon in particular, also just really good. I think another thing to note is that Salamence in particular is really cool on this team, but because it's Choice Scarf, you can take advantage of that. So for example, switching in something that resists the flying or dragon type attacks can be really valuable. If Salamence clicks tail when it's put into a really awkward position as well, and is often forced to switch, so you can potentially capitalize off that by aggressively targeting what's coming in, basically. Pokemon like Pelipper and Bundle are awkward on this team in the sense that they can be absolutely incredible, but sometimes there are games where you bring them and it feels like they contribute very little value. And so, yeah, basically making sure that these Pokemon can't deal very much damage is a big deal. And the main thing is that I think like both Pelipper and Bundle really want to be used for Icy Wind and for Wide Guard, and so having counterplay to both of those I think can be quite good. And then for Amoonguss, just classic, safety goggles, having your grass type Pokemon, having Grass Terra, all of those can be pretty annoying, as well as Taunt, and just pressuring knockouts onto Amoonguss. I think one thing to note is that if Amoonguss Terras, it means Gholdengo can't Terra, and that's a big deal because Gholdengo is weak to a lot of types otherwise, right? You're weak to Ghost, you're weak to Ground, you're weak to Fire, just to name a couple. And so if you're able to force a Terra out of Amoonguss, that can make Gholdengo a little bit weaker. So I've had games where I'm like, oh, I'll use Amoonguss Terra in the early game, but then it means suddenly I can't Terra Gholdengo, and I'm at risk of just getting one-hit KO'd in my regular typing, which can be a little bit difficult. So, yeah. And so all of that is to say, be really careful, especially because if Gholdengo faints and you bring a combination of things like Amoonguss, Pelipper, Salamence, you'll have very little damage from the remaining Pokemon. And so if you bring Gholdengo and you're not bringing something like Iron Hands, it's very much all about enabling Gholdengo as much as possible. But that's it for a breakdown. Let's get into these games. Okay, Tyranitar, Gyarados, and Garchomp feels very old school, and Heatran. Like, actually, basically that entire team is a team you would have seen in 2012 and 13, just with Sinistcha on it. So, as an old school player, like, grew up in that era, that makes me really happy to see. How do I feel about this? I think Salamence with Intimidate's obviously really good against the top 3. Interesting to have a Weather War here as well. Bundle feels amazing here. Hits everything for super effective, but in my opinion, I would like to disrupt my opponent in the early game and then clean up with Bundle in the late game. Heatran is a pretty big issue for Gholdengo. Curious if they actually bring Heatran into this matchup, though. I don't hate something like an Iron Hand Salamence lead. Definitely want Bundle in the back. Amoonguss feels a little bit awkward to bring here with potential Taunt from Thundurus and just Heatran in general. So I don't mind Pelipper as the 4th. I think Pelipper here with Weather Ball can deal really meaningful damage. And Wide Guard is really nice against things like Rock Slide from Tyranitar and Garchomp, as well as Earthquake from Garchomp, and Heat Wave from Heatran. So, yeah, I think Bundle is a really tricky Pokemon to use because it is so frail. So part of how we want to approach this is to make sure that we can actually position it where we get knockouts instead of trading and then just fainting. They're going to go with Sinistcha and Heatran. Okay. This is pretty interesting because I could just go for something like a double up onto Sinistcha immediately. Like, it's tempting to just go for Heavy Slam here. Honestly, in Hurricane, the only downside is I could miss Hurricane here, but alternatively, what we could do here... Man, I'm actually really thinking about it. Pivot into Pelipper, Flying Terra, and then Hurricane to knock out Sinistcha. I'm actually really down for that, because I think Sinistcha is kind of the glue for my opponent's team, and I don't think you would generally expect to get knocked out here. Heatran's in kind of an awkward spot, so I would expect that to switch out. Yep. Perfect. Into Tyranitar. Oh, this is even better for us, because... Yeah, like, the one thing I was worried about was losing the Weather War, but the way let switch-outs work is in order of speed, so Iron Hands being slower than the Heatran here is amazing. This could have been a really awkward turn if Hands was faster than Heatran for some reason, because then the Pelipper would get switched in first, and I'd lose the Weather War. But I'm hoping here they just, don't expect the amount of burst damage from Salamence, so if Sinistcha doesn't Terra, we should just get the knockout onto it, I would think. Like, Hurricane being much stronger than Air Slash, and being Flying Terra boosted. And I think if we start off the game with the knockout, I feel really good because Salamence's Intimidate is really valuable. Hands does really well into their team in general. So they don't go for Terra. Salamence gets the Flying Terra Hurricane off. Does it get the one-hit knockout here? Beautiful. Nice. That's what I love about the Salamence. Like, you can use it for so much utility thanks to the Scarf Tailwind, but you also just do really meaningful damage, and having Intimidate is awesome as well. So That is not a knockout most players would expect, and that puts us into a really nice spot as Thundurus comes out now. I think with Thundurus pivoting in, I'm happy to just protect here and switch back out into the Iron Hands. I think Iron Hands is just so well positioned at this point, right? And I would like to switch out Salamence and back in to maybe lock into Draco Meteor, or even potentially Tailwind. Tailwind in the late game is interesting with the Salamence because it counteracts, for example, potential speed control from Thundurus' Thunder Wave, and just enables Bundle and Iron Hands to outspeed Tyranitar and Heatran, which I think is pretty sweet. In this spot, I also could have just gone for Weather Ball with the Pelipper, but I'm a little bit worried about things like Thunder Wave and Rock Slide. I don't know what item the Iron Hands, or sorry, the Tyranitar has here, so this is generally a pretty safe play. Like, Hands is just really good into this duel right now. Yeah, and they just go for Wild Bolt Storm. Perfect. So I think next turn I can just pretty easily fake out Thundurus and Weather Ball. Yeah, and they just go for Rock Slide. Cool. I also have Wide Guard, right? So that's a move that I can take advantage of. But for now, we have a free fake out, so I'm happy to just launch Weather Ball, I think, into Tyranitar and fake out into Thundurus. Because we know that it's Heatran in the back, so yeah, they're going to Terra here, which makes sense. It feels like you're more or less forced to Terra. And it is going to be onto Tyranitar. What typing? Ghost typing. Okay. Ghost typing is fine. It means now that I can Hurricane you a little bit easier. Fake out goes into Thundurus. No Covert Cloak there, which is good to see. And we are faster, so we get Weather Ball off here. Not very much damage, though. So that should be Assault Vest, then, I think. They actually go for Ghost Terra Shadow Claw onto Iron Hands. Not a very common combo, but that's cool to see. Bundle and Salamence are pretty well positioned for this endgame. You're probably going to Wild Bolt Storm here, to which I could Wide Guard. I don't hate that option. I think the other consideration is to try to just knock out Thundurus right now. I mean, getting rid of this would be huge, right? Because it just enables us in this endgame. Honestly, I kind of expect them to Wild Bolt Rock Slide this turn, though. I'm going to Wide Guard here. And Wild Charge into Thundurus. So we get Wide Guard. Should be Assault Vest Tyranitar. Yep, they Wild Bolt Storm. Perfect. I'm already super happy because we got to showcase the utility of Salamence with Flying Terra Hurricane and Intimidate, plus the... they did go for Rock Slide, and the value of Wide Guard on Pelipper. This move is so underplayed in the format right now, and it's so good given the number of spread moves. Like, Thundurus and Tyranitar aren't exactly the two most common attackers in the format, but there's so many Pokemon that like using spread moves right now. Beautiful. Okay, they've got the Citrus Berry here, which is fine. I feel like a Weather Ball should KO Thundurus from that range. So personally, I don't mind going for Weather Ball. And I'll double up on a Thundurus, mainly because I am worried about Thundurus Thunder Waving the Iron Bundle in the late game. So they're going to go for Thunder Wave here. One would guess that they click Shadow Claw instead with Tyranitar, but maybe they just end up clicking Rock Slide anyway. Yep, it's Shadow Claw. Perfect. Ghost Terra Shadow Claw is pretty interesting, but it does give you a unique kind of out against things like Fluttermane. But Wild Charge here cleanly knocks out Thundurus, and now we're really well positioned for Bundle in this late game, right? If I get this Weather Ball off into the Tyranitar, then we just need one more attack into Tyranitar, and then Iron Bundle just can beat the Heatran. So Weather Ball does successfully go into Tyranitar there. Rain stops. We don't really need the rain to be set up again here. Basically, it's pretty easy for me to pivot Pelipper out into Salamence right now. The only downside in this endgame is we could miss all our moves, and so like it's tempting to switch out into Salamence here. But I'm worried about a Rock Slide Heat Wave double up. Basically, like, we should have really good odds of winning this one, but I'm trying to figure out a way in which we win even with, like, getting super unlucky. Not even sure Heat Wave Rock Slide KOs. So, okay, I am down to switch into Salamence here and Wild Charge. I think the other consideration was to just protect or wide guard with Pelipper, sacrifice Iron Hands, get a free Twister and a Salamence, and then just go for the Draco Meteor onto the Tyranitar slot. But if Salamence survives this turn, I think we should just win, right? Like, it'll be left with low HP, but then Pelipper just comes out. So, yeah, they do go for Heat Wave. Single target Rock Slide might actually get the KO now, though. But the question is, did you Rock Slide when you know I have Wide Guard pressure? And the answer is no, they went for Shadow Claw. So, that's why I felt like this play was probably okay, but let's see if this KOs. Nice. Perfect. It's exactly how I was hoping it would play out, and now we should just be good. That turn was a little bit risky, though, because they could have actually gone for Heat Wave Rock Slide. So, if you connect with both moves there, Salamence feints, we still have a Pelipper bundle endgame, but then I like potentially have to hit my inaccurate attacks, which is really scary. Whereas now I think I can just go for a Hurricane onto Tyranitar. And I'm pretty sure that's Assault Vested, so I'm just going to double up onto that slot. And yeah, my opponent recognizes not much they can do. And with us having Iron Bundle in the back, I felt good as well. So, really interesting matchup here, but I think we got to showcase two of my favorite parts about this team, which was Flying Terra Hurricane on Salamence. And it having Intimidate, right? Like, without that Intimidate, then we just faint to the Shadow Claw, but having Intimidated Tyranitar, we were able to survive that double up. We were able to get a one-hit knockout onto Sinistra, Flying Terra Hurricane. So it's a really powerful move that a lot of people don't anticipate, and we also, of course, had the Wide Guard on Pelipper to bypass things like Wild Bolt Storm, Rock Slide, and Heat Wave, potentially, which was really nice. So, yeah, Salamence and Pelipper, I think, are the two really, really cool components of this team, and being able to showcase exactly why you might want to consider using them in this format, I think was awesome. So, really happy about it. Okay, we've got Heatran, Tornadus, Iron Hands, Rillaboom, Landorus, and Flutter for this one. A lot of Pokemon that I think Pelipper and Salamence match up well into, as well as Bundle. So once again, kind of an interesting one for Gholdengo. Like, Gholdengo is such a centerpiece for this team, but with Heatran, Hands, Lando, I personally don't hate like a Salamence Iron Hands lead. I'm thinking Pelipper Bundle in the back, honestly. One approach I would love to take is if they let Tornadus, like, fake out Draco Meteor, knock out Tornadus, because that enables Bundle, right? Bundle's matchup here is excellent. It can Freeze Dry, Landorus, Rillaboom, Tornadus, and Hydro Pump into Heatran. I think you can make another approach in this game, which is leading Gholdengo if you're expecting something like a Rillaboom Tornadus lead or an Iron Hands Tornadus lead, and just start Nasty Plotting Dragon Terra. But I think Salamence Hands is a really effective lead for this team because you have Fake Out Pressure and you have Intimidate Pressure. As someone who used Hariyama and Salamence back in 2014, it reminds me so much of that combination. So, similar concept. Just Fake Out plus Intimidate Pressure. And they're going to go with Rillaboom and Tornadus. Cool, that works for me. I think the main question I have here is whether or not you're Covert Cloak on Torn. Because I personally don't mind going for something like Air Slash onto Rillaboom. And just Wild Charge into Tornadus. Right, Rillaboom here, not that great for my opponent. You'll be able to fake out one of the two slots, and you either reduce damage onto your Rillaboom, or I think the other thing is, I don't know the item on Tornadus, so in best of one, I don't feel great clicking fake out here. It would feel really bad for them to fake out Salamence. I fake out a Covert Cloak on Torn, right? But they're just going to Tailwind, which is fine. I could have Tailwinded with my own Salamence, but it doesn't make that much sense since Iron Hands would just be slower anyway afterwards, and Air Slash does so much damage there. Oh my goodness. So that's not a Solvest Rillaboom then, I don't think. That's actually really important information. I want to prioritize knocking out Rillaboom right now, because Tornadus isn't... I say it's not that scary, but it's kind of annoying, I guess, for these two. Like, you could Woodhammer right now. Yeah, I mean, the Intimidate's big, so, like, I don't mind going for another Air Slash here. I could see Landorus switching in here. I'm going to Air Slash and Drain Punch into Rillaboom. Oh, sunny day. Okay. That's fine. U-turn. We're still faster with Scarf Mens. Oh, that's also huge. Wow, that was a missed opportunity to Wild Charge there, then. I didn't even think about the fact we could be faster there. But, like, one could argue that's actually beneficial for us, right? Because basically with this play, they're probably going to bring out Flutter, and it's going to activate Photosynthesis, but that's fine. I think my response would be to switch Salamence out, and then just Water Terra Wild Charge Torn. It's one of those scenarios where it's like sometimes not getting the double knockout is helpful, because if I get a double knockout, my opponent just gets to switch in their Pokemon very freely. But now I think I can just bring in Pelipper. You haven't Terra'd yet. 2 turns of Tailwind left. Honestly, I could just stay in here as well. But I feel like bringing in Pelipper here is fine. Bring in Pelipper and just Wild Charge. I'm hoping that they just click Bleak Wind Storm here and they don't Terra. Because if I knock out Tornadus, then like we've stalled out most of your Tailwind really effectively. And we have the numbers advantage as well. Salamence, like, you can see why it's being used here. Right? It's super good into Rillaboom in that spot. They're going to Terra, but if I were to guess, you would Terra the Heatran here, right? Yeah, into Fairy maybe. Grass? I'm so happy seeing that as a Salamence user right now. And as an Iron Bundle user with Freeze Dry. Perfect, they just Bleak Wind. Amazing. Okay. Every time Bleak Wind comes out, it feels like Hurricane. I'm always like, oh, please don't confuse me. But Heat Wave is going to miss on the Iron Hands there, but not too big of a deal. The main thing is it prevents a potential burn chance there, but we get another knockout onto Torn. So this has played out super, super well for us so far. We get another knockout. Heal back up from grassy terrain as well. Yeah, I mean, this is looking like a beautiful Salamence endgame. I feel like if you had Flutter, you would have brought it out earlier, so I don't think Flutter is their last one. But what would it be? It is Flutter, huh? If I were them, I would have brought out Flutter first over the Torn. But I guess they were probably worried about me tearing and then just knocking out their Flutter, which is honestly a fair thing. Last turn of Tailwind here. We've got Bundle. This game isn't 100% won yet, so I do want to be a little bit careful. To me, it feels like if I just protect here... I'm just worried about a random Grass Terra Blast from Heatran right now, but I want to protect Water Terra and then just Heavy Slam into Flutter. If we get the knockout onto Flutter, then we just definitively win with the Iron Bundle plus the Salamence in the back. Because there are so many moves I can miss with this team, I always try to figure out, like, what's the way we can win without having to rely on inaccurate moves in the end game. We protect. Oh, perfect. Okay, they just Gleam. Wide Guard and not Terraring there could have worked then. Cool. And they just Earth Power. Perfect. Yeah. The only thing I was worried about there was a random Grass Terra Terra Blast, which does not feel that common from Heatrans these days. They're Choice Scarf on Flutter, but... Or sorry, not Choice Scarf. Focus Sash on Flutter, but that's totally okay, because Salamence with Hurricane should just secure the endgame for us at this point. So, I'm okay with that. As well as Iron Bundle with Freeze Dry, honestly. Tailwind Peter's out. Let's just double check. We still have 3 turns of Rain, which is perfect. Yeah, I mean, in this spot, no point in really switching out. They're probably just going to click Dazzling Gleam again, but in case they don't, I guess we get a free Hurricane off here. I'm happy to just split my damage at this point. We don't need either of these Pokemon to win this endgame, so yeah, they're just going to Gleam again. But I'm happy to give up both here. Could have Wide Guarded there, but I figured they might consider Moonblasting or Shadow Balling. And I don't even think this KOs, actually. Yeah, nice. It's funny because I haven't even brought out Iron Bundle, but Iron Bundle is so good for these endgames as well. But Flutter just faints now. Salamen's Hands was such a good lead, though, right? Because it's like they prioritize setting up Tailwind. I think Hands plus Torn could have been a little bit scarier for us to go into. But now we just bring out Mence. And I have a Hurricane boosted by... Or not boosted, but 100% accurate in the rain. And we have Iron Bundle with Freeze Dry in the back, but it's cooler to end this game with Salamence, I think. So I'm happy to just Hurricane here and Drain Punch. Cool. They don't end up protecting. And that almost just gets the knockout in itself. Wow. And it gets the Confusion. Wasn't sure how much that would actually do. But let's see if they attack through Confusion. They had Terra Blast! Whoa. Okay. Now, the tricky thing, like, I figured as soon as we got the Heavy Slam off onto Flutter would be good, because it just opens the door for Salamence. Salamence walls Heatran, which is one of the reasons why it's really great, unless you're Terra Fairy Heatran, so felt really safe about that. And so I was like, okay, if I get Heavy Slam off, well, if you're, like, Booster, they obviously weren't Booster. If they were Choice Specs Flutter, or Life Orb Flutter, or Pixie Plate Flutter, for example, and Heavy Slam just gets the KO, game is just over. Even if we don't get the KO, as long as you don't knock out hands with me committing my Terra, it's fine. But it would, like, a double up there actually would have been really scary. It's just you have to have a conviction to, like, predict the Terra that turn. But if there's any turn to predict the Terra, honestly, it was then. But now we can just freeze dry. And there's no way Heatran's winning this endgame. So, Salamence, once again, putting in a lot of work by being able to kind of reduce their damage power in the early game, do a ton of damage with Air Slash as well, and it was able to outspeed the Rillaboom even under Tailwind, which was huge for us here. So, Rillaboom, very not invested in speed, if I had to guess, and they just weren't able to really make that much effective use of their Tailwind, which was also crucial. So, yeah, I think Hand Salamence, really fun with this team because it opens up a lot of possibilities. Okay, we've got Roaring Moon, Amoonguss, Landorus, Iron Hands, Fluttermane, and Heatran. A familiar looking team. So, what do I want to do here? I think Gholdengo is really important to prioritize, as we saw in that previous match. Maybe I want to try the Iron Hand Salamence lead then. Hand Salamence with Gholdengo and Amoonguss in the back. Yeah, I think, like, Pelipper's tempting to bring here because you're like, oh, you've got Weather Ball into Heatran and Landorus as well as Hurricane into Amoonguss. It just doesn't feel that great because it's Wild Charge bait from the Iron Hands. And if you don't position Pelipper well, Amoonguss can just Spore you. Bundle is also tempting. I think, like, you could make an argument for any of the 6 here, but, like, my issue with Bundle is it gets demolished by Flutter and Iron Hands. I don't threaten either of those with the knockout. We also don't get, like, a one-hit knockout onto Roaring Moon, for example. So, yeah. It's really fascinating. It's, like, seeing how Regulation E has evolved, and a lot of the best teams in Regulation E are just the best teams from Regulation D as well. So, no new Pokemon from, once again, either of these teams. It is going to be a Flutter Iron Hands lead. Okay. I think this is definitely a Salamence turn 1 switch into Amoonguss. And I'll just Heavy Slam Flutter. It's actually tempting. Like, I think they should always Fake Out into my Iron Hands here. So it's actually tempting to go for Fake Out onto their hands to see if I'm faster with my hands. Just because I think it would be absolutely wild for you to let your Fluttermane get Heavy Slammed on turn 1 here with no consequence. And so it's one of the rare times where I'm willing to do this because I just, like, I guess they could Fake Out Moonblast my hands. Okay, yeah, they have the faster hands. So that's exactly what I wanted to confirm here, right? Dazzling Gleam? Okay. Makes sense. This turn is interesting. You should be Specs based on that damage, so I think we can actually pivot in Gholdengo now. And Spore. Yeah. Pivoting Gholdengo, Spore, and then Nasty Plot is how I'm thinking about this right now. Hand switches out. Show me Amoonguss on that slot. Okay, Heatran. That's okay, because now Gholdengo should be able to start getting set up with Nasty Plot. As I Spore into their Flutter as well. So what I can do now is, for example, Dragon Terra Gholdengo. Dragon Terra Gholdengo, Nasty Plot, and then switch Amoonguss out into Iron Hands. The only downside about that is, like, I do commit my Terra, like, because I could also Terra Water this, but Heatran might just protect this turn. Yeah, I want to Terra Dragon Nasty Plot. I think Terra Dragon Nasty Plot switching to Salamence actually makes a lot of sense, because then Salamence can just Scarf Tailwind for us. I'm hoping Heatran just protects this turn, ideally. But I think getting Tailwind up is going to be good. Like, I think one thing you have to be worried about if you're my opponent is me just protecting Gholdengo and then sporing into Heatran. If I, say, Water Terra my Amoonguss. And the reason, like, basically, I didn't want to switch in Iron Hands here and then risk turn 2, or, like, the next turn on a 1-turn Flutter Mane Wake Up. And they protect. Beautiful. That's exactly what we want to see. Okay, perfect. So with that, now I can Tailwind with my Salamence and Shadow Ball into Flutter Mane. Yeah. No need to click Make It Rain here. I think Shadow Ball is a little bit more consistent. Shadow Ball, Tailwind. This is where bringing Pelipper would have been actually very helpful, though, for Amoonguss, but there's no guarantee that Heatran was going to come out in this matchup, given the Pelipper and Iron Bundle, right? But Tailwind Shadow Ball now. Dragon Terror protects us from Heat Wave. Earth Power shouldn't do that much damage either. And then we'll probably pivot Salamence out into my Iron Hands the next turn. And then go from there. But yeah, there's no way around Tailwind Shadow Ball right now, which feels really good. I guess my only fear is that they went for like a Fairy Terror with Flutter Mane this turn just to survive Shadow Ball. But the odds of that seem really crazy. And they don't go for it, which is perfect. So we get Tailwind up, so that denies Flutter Mane the chance to wake up. And, like, that's a really big deal, because yes, Flutter has not taken that many turns of sleep, but if it wakes up, it just kind of completely ruins the strategy, right? So they're going to Flash Cannon into Salamence. Okay, that's fine. And we continue to heal up from leftovers. And more critically, we're still at +2 special attack, which is important. But yeah, like, Iron Hands did take a good amount of damage in this early game, and it's not like I do that much damage with +2 Shadow Ball still, so I still have to be careful about how I maneuver this end game right now. I think, for example, protecting this turn with the Gholdengo is pretty easy to make. Like, protecting and switching to Iron Hands is the play that I think makes the most sense here, but it is interesting to consider whether or not it makes sense to just get a free switch in and, like, stay in with Salamence this turn. Because it would make sense for them to maybe go for something like a Heat Wave and a Drain Punch onto a Salamence slot. But I think even if Hands faints here, it's a free switch in back into my Salamence, so it's not the end of the world. And if Hands doesn't faint this turn, it's huge, because then I can just fake out Shadow Ball into Heatran. The main question is whether or not they commit Fake Out onto Gholdengo here. Okay, they do. Perfect. You feel pressure, too, in this situation, right? So it's kind of like the safe play for them to make, but that grants me a free switch into my hands, which is a really big deal. They actually double up into us as well. Okay, nice. That's huge. Now this turn is really interesting. Because, like, I could actually go for another Nasty Plot right now and Fake Out onto their Iron Hands if we think Heatran protects this turn. But they could just Flash Cannon into us, right? Which is kind of the main fear. I still have 2 turns of Tailwind as well, which is important in trying to beat the Iron Hands. Okay, honestly, yeah, I'm down to Fake Out Iron Hands and Nasty Plot again. They don't protect Heatran, which I would have loved to see, but that's still okay. Because now this next turn I can go for something like a Shadow Ball Drain Punch double up. Yeah, Flash Cannon does less than half, which is huge. Okay, nice. I guess my only fear is even a +4 Shadow Ball Drain Punch combo doesn't knock out Iron Hands, but I'd be kind of surprised if that were the case. So I'm going to go for the double up here, knowing I still have a turn of Tailwind to use. They don't protect Heatran, though, which I would have liked to see. Okay, nice. Yeah, that definitely gets the KO. Perfect. I don't know if the second Nasty Plot was necessary then, but I figured, like, if they protect Heatran either this turn or last turn, the additional Nasty Plot kind of just wins us the game, so I'm willing to lean into that. They go for Heat Wave here. Nice. So we don't take that much with Gholdengo. No burn either onto Iron Hands, which is huge. Perfect. Gholdengo has put in a clinic in this one. Roaring Moon is their last one. Okay. So you could Flying Terra Acro right now. You could Dragon Dance as well. I think if I just Protect here and switch into Mence, that should be good. Because then it enables me to potentially set up Tailwind again, which is huge. If you Dragon Dance, then... D-Dance is, I guess, the one thing that I'm a little bit worried about right now. Like, this game still isn't over by any means, because Amoonguss is really weak into these two, and I've taken so much damage across the board. But I think they have to get this turn right. If they don't, I think we just have a very clear path to victory, which is Tailwind with Salamence, make it rain the next turn. So I think this turn they would need to Dragon Dance with Roaring Moon, but if they Protect here... They didn't Terra. Okay, they did Dragon Dance. Nicely done. And Flash Cannon. Masterfully done. Whoa. That was really, really nicely done. Okay. That gets them back into this game. That was phenomenal, honestly. Because, like, their obvious play is to just Flying Terra Acrobatics Gholdengo and then Earth Power into Iron Hands. Oh, that makes this really spicy, honestly. But I think we can just bring out a Amoonguss. Yeah, I'm happy to just Shadow Ball. And Rage Powder, I think. This turn would be a question of, do you protect Roaring Moon? Because I think I could Rage Powder, make it rain, for example. But they're going to go for a Terra, which makes sense. I would expect Terra flying and then just Acrobatics. Yep. Which means they're not protecting, which also means I maybe could have clicked Make It Rain this turn. But if Heatran doesn't protect and +4 Shadow Ball gets the knockout onto that, then I think it's still okay. Yep, so they go for Acro. Onto Amoonguss, which gets the knockout. We faint. Yeah, we get Shadow Ball off. +4 onto the Heatran. That's a one-hit knockout. Cool. Now it's a 2v1. Okay. I bring Iron Hands back out. I mean, Roaring Moon always protects here, right? There's no point in even going for another Nasty Plot, though. So, yeah, just make it rain, fake out. I think what this boils down... They didn't protect? Wow, okay. That was anticlimactic. Oh, you probably don't have Protect then, right? If you have Tailwind as... No, like, I would expect that they had Tailwind. No, sorry, that they don't have Tailwind if it's Attack Booster energy. Because, like, the set on that team should be Dragon Dance, Acrobatics, Knockoff, and Protect. So, the lack of a Protect is shocking there. What I want to quickly calc is Wild Charge into the Roaring Moon, because I was thinking... What the game boils down to if you protect there is that you can only Acrobatics one of the two slots, right? So I can make either a read saying, well, I think you're going to Acro into Gholdengo, Protect, and Wild Charge, and even if Wild Charge doesn't KO, and if you target Gholdengo, we just win. But I was thinking Wild Charge plus Make It Rain just wins us the game in that spot. So I want to pull up the calc, because I think if that does indeed get the KO, then we should be fine. But my opponent with that Dragon Dance and Flash Cannon play did a very nice job, given like how ahead I was in that one. So I do want to pull up the calc real quick. Pulling up the damage calc, as you can see, Wild Charge here is a guaranteed one-hit knockout onto Flying Terror Rory Moon, even with max HP and 4 defense EVs. So this is a pretty standard benchmark for Rory Moons. That's already a lot of bulk because you obviously would like to invest more in attack and speed, for example. But even if you have, for example, 76 defense EVs, which is another benchmark that I've seen, it's still a 7-8 chance of getting a one-hit knockout, so I think that it's very likely in that end game, Wild Charge plus Make It Rain just secures us the end game. So, good to know these calcs just because I wasn't 100% sure of them, and maybe some players do run even more defense investment on Rory Moon, but as a result, you're giving up so much on attack and speed, and you do want to run some investment in both of those as well. So, that endgame was really interesting because, like I said, that one pivotal turn where the Rory Moon made the correct call, went for the Dragon Dance, and we saw the Flash Cannon until a Salamence switch in. Like, if they don't make that one specific play, I feel like I should just be in a super good spot with Salamence pivoting in, pressuring Tailwind / Draco Meteor, and Gholdengo just being able to pressure Make It Rain. So, they made a phenomenal play to get back into it. But what ended up being okay for us is that I got the Shadow Ball correctly into the Heatran slot. If Heatran had actually protected that turn, I think things get a lot scarier. Although, I guess what would have ended up happening is you knock out Amoonguss, I bring out Iron Hands, and I just fake out the Rory Moon, Shadow Ball, Heatran, and then we're in the same endgame anyway, so maybe I actually wouldn't have made too much of a difference now that I think about it. But I think the pivotal turn for them was them really getting back into things with Dragon Dance and knocking out Salamence, but because I had built up such a big lead in the early game, even with them making the correct play there, it still ended up being okay. So it makes me feel a little bit better seeing this calc as well, because it means that even if Rory Moon had protected, like I was shocked they didn't protect, but even if they protected, Wild Charge plus Make It Rain should just win us the game there, and we don't even have to think about the mind game of, oh, do I want to protect with Gholdengo? In fact, protecting could be a throw, because if we protect and they acrobatics into Iron Hands, then we actually just lose the game, whereas we were in this endgame where both attacks should just really get the knockout, barring a ton of defense investment on Rory Moon. But always good to do these calcs to have a better sense of, you know, whether or not you need to make a read or you don't, and turns out we didn't need to. Okay, we've got Iron Hands, Garganacl, Hisuian Arcanine, Cresselia, Amoonguss, Corviknight. Very interesting. It feels like a very early meta Scarlet and Violet team, but then with some of the new additions. Mainly just looking at Corviknight plus Garganacl plus Amoonguss. Honestly, though, I say early meta, it's not like Amoonguss. I mean, it's not like Corviknight was that common. I guess it's really just Garganacl, if anything, which, you know, won the very first Scarlet and Violet regionals. This feels like a Gholdengo game to me. Salamence has Intimidate. Hurricane is what I think is really tempting here. Because I think like Salamence Pelipper is compelling. I think we want Gholdengo because it punishes Cresselia and Corviknight. Like, to me, I think Dragon Gholdengo should have a very good matchup into their team, and I think we probably drop Bundle. We gotta worry about Wide Guard from Garganacl as well as Sulcure, though, so those are things to pay attention to. So it's definitely 4 of the 5. I'm definitely dropping Bundle here. The question is, who do I want to also not bring? I think Amoonguss probably comes out. You know what? I think I'm going to go Gholdengo, Mence, Peli, Hands. As I locked it in with 0 seconds. Buzzer beater. I think Amoonguss is really good here, but I think Salamence and Pelipper, we just don't get to use this frequently. And I think Amoonguss is a little bit more consistent because of the fact that their team looks slow and likely wants to set up Trick Room. Okay. This is a fantastic lead, honestly, immediately. Because I get an Intimidate off onto both of their physical attackers. You're probably not going to want to fake out Gholdengo, but what I can do is just go for an immediate Dragon Terra here, Nasty Plot, and then just pivot Salamence out and go into Iron Hands. Yeah, I think we're in incredible shape just off this lead in turn 1. The only way things can go poorly for us is if Hands makes a crazy read and clicks Fake Out into my Gholdengo, which would be a very impressive read in my opinion. Otherwise, I think the obvious play is you fake out Salamence, you Flare Blitz into Gholdengo, but with Intimidate and Dragon Terra, Flare Blitz shouldn't do that much, and once we get Nasty Plot off, next turn I have Fake Out pressure, I can pivot back into Salamence for Intimidate as well. We're just super well positioned, so You can see how effective Salamence is on this team. Just being able to pressure with Intimidate, but also be an Intimidate user that is immune to ground type attacks is really important because that synergizes well with the Gholdengo, and also putting on offensive pressure with Air Slash, Hurricane, and Draco, and also putting on pressure with Tailwind. They critically don't fake out here, so that's a nice play. Maybe they like Wild Charged in a Gholdengo. But we get Nasty Plot off, which is quite important here. Nicely done. Okay, it's the double up. But, yeah. Doesn't even do that much damage, so it's fine. Excuse me. I think given that, what I want to do... Pretty easy to fake out Iron Hands here. Personally, I'm okay Shadow Balling Arcanine here and just fake out into hands. Cool, Arcanine switches. I mean, you don't really have too many defensive options against Shadow Ball, and Cresselia is really the last thing you'd want to bring into a Shadow Ball, so that's great to see. This is why Dragon Terra is just so good, right? Like, so many offensive types in the format that can't do much into it. That almost just gets the KO. Sweet. And a special defense drop to boot. I think the one main thing I'm potentially thinking of covering for here is a random ally switch. So I personally don't hate clicking Make It Rain here. And Drain Punch. Yep. I just think their team has very few Nasty Plot Gholdengo answers. Gholdengo has just really had a very nice comeback in the format. And it's interesting because there are a lot of different ways to utilize it. We've even seen things like Life Orb and Metal Coat being used to just increase your damage of Make It Rain a little bit more, and those are especially prevalent on Tailwind Tornadoes teams. Obviously, Choice Specs Gholdengo continues to be really good as well, and you can use either Steel Terra or a Defensive Terra. So they're not going to go for Ally Switch, but yeah, I don't mind clicking Make It Rain there because it also covers for switch out options, and even though Iron Hands doesn't take that much damage from it, we have a pretty big advantage right now. Like, they can Drain Punch us, they'll heal back a little bit. Critically, we see that our Hands is also faster here, so that's good to know. I think if you pivot your Arcanine back in, I can protect my Gholdengo, switch Iron Hands out into Salamence, and then angle for a Tailwind, potentially. The main thing is I don't know what kind of Arcanine set it is. It should be Choice Band. They bring Garganacl out, which is totally fine with me. Oh, Garg is interesting. I would think let this Terra's then maybe goes for Sulk here. But I'm happy to just go for a knockout right now. So Shadow Ball into hands and Drain Punch just to secure the KO. This covers for any switch out options, and that should be Assault Vest Iron Hands. So guarantee a knockout onto that slot this turn. I don't think Garganacl's getting a KO onto either slot. They should Terra defensively Garganacl, I would think. Yep. Into water, which is totally fine by me. Now you're just weak to the Wild Charge from Iron Hands. And Iron Hands should basically just secure this endgame for us. So, there's Shadow Ball into hands. Does not get the knockout, but that's fine. We knew that we had the faster Iron Hands, so the point of Shadow Balling that slot is we know they're Assault Vest Iron Hands. They can't protect that slot. I know I'm faster, so basically that double up either guarantees a knockout onto the... Guarantees a knockout onto the Iron Hands if they stay in, which is what happened, or if they switch out an Arcanine, we get the knockout onto that, which would even be better, arguably. They do have Iron Defense, which is a little bit annoying, but like I've got Draco Meteor in this endgame, so it's okay. They bring out Hisu and Arcanine, which is fine. I do want to make sure I still sequence this properly, but with double Hurricane in Rain being accurate, we should be okay. I think I'm happy to honestly just Shadow Ball into Arcanine and Drain Punch it. Because Garganacl's not really that much of a problem. Garg is a Pokemon that you normally want on the field for a long time and like slowly disrupt your opponent, but my opponent's lost way too many resources, so I don't think they're at a point where Garganacl can like 1v4 our team. You can Iron Defense up, but we have 3 special attackers out of the 4 Pokemon that we brought. So here I'm just going for damage, right? I guess my one fear is Choice Band Rock Slide, but they just commit to E-Speed, which is fine. Yeah. So you speed, I get the Drain Punch off into Hisuian Arcanine, I get a free switch into the Salamence, which is great. Oh my gosh, that almost just gets the knockout even with Intimidate. Wow. And they just Sulk here. Perfect. Cool. Okay. And with Salamence coming out here, I think I just switch hands now into Pelipper to get 100% accurate Hurricanes. They'll probably E-Speed Salt Cure the Salamence slot. I actually think it was correct to bring out Pelipper first and just protect Drain Punch, because that should be Choice Banded, right? Yeah, I actually don't love how I sequenced that. I think it's still fine, but I'm gonna Hurricane Arcanine here and then pivot in Pelipper. Yeah, I think it was better to just bring out Pelipper and then protect Drain Punch Arcanine. Because then it's a 3v1. Like, here, it now opens the door for, like, a crit. Right, a double Salt here. E-Speed into Pelipper. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think it makes too much of a difference, but I'm pretty sure that's Choice Band Arcanine, given that E-Speed knocked out the Gholdengo, so using that deduction, I think it just makes more sense to bring out Pelipper first. Yeah, and they just Sulk here, but that's fine. It's a 3v1, and even though you've gotten one Iron defense up, I still deal such meaningful damage, and Sulk only does 21 to Salamence, so yeah, now I can just double Hurricane into you. I think double Hurricane might just get the knockout, but even if it doesn't, like, you're going to have to survive. You're going to have to hope to not get confused. Actually, it's not going to get the KO. Did a little bit less than I expected, so a little bit more special defense than I had anticipated, but that's fine. So you're in a Pelipper. Yep. It's like a little bit annoying thanks to leftovers. I think this turn Garganacl has to protect, so to capitalize off that, I think I could just switch Pelipper out into Iron Hands. And it's like the Sulk damage certainly adds up, but it's not enough to get the knockouts right now. So 60 down to 24. This would be a really interesting turn for them. You know what? No, I actually think it's right to just double Hurricane here. You should protect, but they don't. And that's exactly it, right? Because I think if I switch, it does give them the opportunity to actually get a recover off, which would be a little bit annoying. And in my head, it's fine to lose Pelipper here, because then I just get a free switch into Iron Hands, right? And then I can just go for Fake Out Hurricane / Wild Charge Hurricane. So Garganacl is a Pokemon that can very single-handedly win you games, and so that's why I thought it was important to attack around it as quickly as possible. But yeah, we just had a really good lead, and Gholdengo was not threatened by too much on their team. But I do think if I were to replay that endgame, I would definitely bring out Pelipper first, protect Pelipper, Drain Punch to knock out the Hisuian Arcanine, and then it's a 3v1, and then just go Wild Charge Hurricane, and then wait for the inevitable switch into Salamence, probably. I could just try to switch in Salamence as well, because you saw Sulk here. The damage from it itself, from the attack, doesn't do that much to Salamence, and like the residuals are kind of annoying, but it would still take like 4 or 5 turns before Salamence faints. So, yeah. Whoa, there's a Shift Tree here, as well as Thundurus, Tornadus, Indeedee, Urshifu, and Chi-Yu. Shift Tree gets Wind Rider now, so it can capitalize off Tailwind from Tornadus, which is really cool. They also have Thundurus. Indeedee on that comp is interesting. Wonder if there's a Psychic Seed somewhere. Because it doesn't really screen like a Trick Room team, but Follow Me Helping Hand, of course, is still good utility. I don't know the Urshifu type, which is my concern. I think Dark Urshifu can give this team a fair amount of trouble. So what do I want to lead with here? I think Iron Hands is really good, especially into Shift Tree. Maybe I just go with Iron Hand Salamence. Like, I lead that a lot. I don't love Pelipper in this one, so I think I'm going to eliminate bringing that. It could also be something like Gholdengo and Amoonguss, honestly. And just Rage Powder into Nasty Plot. Yeah, that doesn't seem half bad. I want to bring Bundle. It just doesn't feel as consistent to me. And I think my hesitancy with Bundle here is that they have Thundurus. And so, like, Thundurus can Thunder Wave us and can just deal massive amounts of damage, whereas we can't get a one-hit KO onto it. I don't know if the speed control from Icy Wind is really that valuable either. And I think Bundle not being able to secure like one-hit knockouts is basically my main concern. It's going to be Indeedee and Thundurus. Okay. So this is really interesting because by leading the Thundurus and the Indeedee, you set up Psychic Terrain, and so if Thundurus is taunt, you can't actually taunt the Amoonguss here. But there's the Psychic Seed that I was wondering about. Whoa, okay. I can't help but wonder if this is safety goggles now. I don't mind a Nasty Plot into a Protect on turn 1, I think. Alternatively, I think I can just Terra here and Spore into Thundurus. I'm mainly curious if this is safety goggles. But if I Terra, it means I can't Terra Gholdengo, which is kind of an issue, in my opinion. Because that's valuable against Chi-Yu. And I don't think Psychic plus an attack from Thundurus will get a one-hit knockout, so maybe I'm actually down to just Spore and Nasty Plot right away. Okay. What is Thundurus doing here? It's physical Thundurus with acrobatics. I have not seen that in a minute. But that's totally fine. I get Nasty Plot off. Like, they would have been better off if they went for a Psychic that turn with Indeedee as well. So I thought I was definitely safe of getting KO'd even from a double up there, but them having acrobatics meant like an acrobatic Psychic double up actually would have KO'd Amoonguss unless I Terra'd. So luckily for us, we don't end up fainting there. I'm honestly down to just keep Nasty Plotting right now. Like Nasty Plot and then switch Amoonguss out into Salamence here, and then I can set up Tailwind. Yeah, that feels solid. This is where Bundle is a switch in. It could have been okay, I guess, but it still takes damage from Psychic, which I don't love. Right now, I don't get value out of Intimidate, but that's fine. Yeah, it is Defiant Thundurus, though. But the damage output from that is really not that scary. I guess the problem here is I do give it a chance to wake up now, this next turn. But we'll just Nasty Plot again. And they just go for a Dazzling Gleam. Okay. So I'm thinking they don't have Psychic with Indeedee then. Now I'm definitely Tailwinding with Salamence. The question is whether or not I want a Shadow Ball here. I'm thinking of actually clicking Make It Rain. Like, they've only taken one turn of sleep. So I guess, though, maybe Thundurus is something like a Crunch. Yeah, so they go for Follow Me, which is exactly why I didn't want a Shadow Ball here. I think if they stay asleep this turn, we should be incredibly well positioned. But I'm thinking I maybe should have Terra'd the Gholdengo. So we get a clean one-hit knockout onto Indeedee. Yep. Because I'm worried about a random attack from Thundurus into Gholdengo now. But they stay asleep. Okay, cool. I mean, Acrobatics, Protect, and a physical electric type attack. And then, like, I could see the last one being something like Crunch. So I think that turn could have gone poorly for us, and maybe I should have contemplated not switching in Salamence, but I really valued the speed control. They bring out Tornadus. Okay. Tornadus here probably implies that you're going to set up your own Tailwind, which is fine. I think what I'm going to do here is actually Terra, because with Terra, I don't see how you're knocking out Gholdengo, and then just click Make It Rain, and then swap Salamence out into Iron Hands. I think another way I could have played that was to not Terra, protect Gholdengo, bring out Hands, and then Fake Out plus Make It Rain the next turn. But yeah, I mean, this is still a +3 Make It Rain right now, right? So with Terra here, even if you have Crunch on the Thundurus, shouldn't get the KO. And without a Life Orb, like, yeah, you're at +1 attack, but I don't think the damage output is that scary. So Gholdengo now commits to Terra. They go for their own Tailwind, which isn't a surprise. But this also means Salamence now can outpace my opponent, right? Because I've set up Tailwind. Thundurus does wake up. They just go for Acrobatics. Okay. I don't know what their plan against Gholdengo is, honestly. And that's just another double KO. Nice. So Gholdengo is just so incredible, and my opponent had a pretty passive lead, and Indeedee not having a Psychic type attack made this game a lot easier for us as well. So Tornadus faints. Now it's a 4v1. Don't really see how they can mount a comeback, but I'm gonna guess Shift Tree is the last one. That's pretty cool. So you get Wind Rider here. Last turn of Psychic Terrain, so you don't want to click Fake Out. Tailwind is up. on both ends. I mean, it's a 4v1. I don't see how Shiftry is ever winning this scenario. I'm happy to just click Make It Rain here and Drain Punch. I guess I want to cover for a potential Terra here. I have no idea what Terra Shiftry goes for, but maybe something like Ghost Terra, so I'm fine clicking Heavy Slam here. Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't think we really need to overthink that. Shiftry does not seem like the Pokemon that can have that much comeback potential. I wonder... I think my opponent probably should have just brought out Shiftry first over Tornadus, because Tornadus set up Tailwind, but, like, what is the Tailwind really enabling? I thought if you're going to set up Tailwind, you have to knock out Gholdengo that turn, but with the lack of an attack onto the Gholdengo slot, I just don't think there was much my opponent could have done. But super interesting team with the Psychic Seed on Indeedee, as well as the Shiftry and the Indeedee Thundurus lead specifically. But at the end of the day, like, Thundurus just doesn't even do that much damage, right? Like, they had a +1 Acrobatics into Iron Hands, and it still did less than 50%. Ooh, this is a really cool Rain team. Politoed, Hisuian Arcanine, Basculegion, Gothitelle, Amoonguss, and Thundurus Therian. Okay. So, they have their own weather / rain. Salamence feels really compelling, but its matchup into Thundurus is not amazing. Bundle with Freeze Dry here is interesting to me. Gholdengo is good against the trap from Gothitelle. I'm personally intrigued by something like a Salamence plus Gholdengo lead. Because I think Dragon Terra Gholdengo just looks really solid here with the Amoonguss in the back and probably Hands. I'm not very good at bringing Bundle with this team. It feels weird to not bring Bundle into this one. They've got so many things that are weak to Freeze Dry and Hydro Pump. But it also feels weird not bringing Iron Hands. Like, Iron Hands is just so consistently good here. Especially with Water Terra. I could drop a Amoonguss, I guess, for Bundle. Salamence, Gholdengo, Hands Bundle. Okay, you know what? Let's try that out. Yeah, I think Bundle is just a really difficult Pokemon to use because of how frail it is. And so, like, I generally err on not bringing it in best of ones because it doesn't feel as consistent. Whereas, like, Amoonguss, Hands, they're so bulky. Salamence generally is really valuable for setting up those Tailwinds. And then Gholdengo is just one of the, you know, stars of this team. We're going to go with Thundurus and Amoonguss. Okay. This is where if I had Amoonguss, I would have been able to pivot Salamence into it. I could go for something like an Air Slash plus Make It Rain on turn 1 to just try to KO Amoonguss, honestly. It's free to start Nasty Plotting with this, that's for sure. Honestly, I don't hate going for just Air Slash into Amoonguss and then Nasty Plot on turn 1. I think I'm mainly curious about the Thundurus Therian set here. I've normally seen Choice Specs or Assault Vest. Specs could really hurt here, now that I think about it. But I didn't want to just use my Dragon Terra immediately on turn 1. So, yeah, one of the arguments to bring Amoonguss is for a situation like this, but they actually pivot their Amoonguss out, so I'm happy with that. Maybe in a Politoed? Nope, in an Arcanine, okay. As a switch makes a lot of sense. And if this is Specs Thundurus, honestly, the damage on a Gholdengo is pretty significant. They go for a Terra as well. What Terra would you go for here? Like Electric? Terra Flying, huh? Man, that would have been a sick opportunity to Tailwind with Salamence, because then I would just get my Nasty Plot off and just click Make It Rain turn 2. But we get Air Slash. It's pretty good damage, honestly. It's because it crits. Makes sense. They go for Terra Blast, huh? Okay. Could be worse. That did a lot of damage. I feel like it's Specs, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, this turn I'm happy to just pivot Mence out into Iron Hands and then go for... Do I even need to do that? Because I also think I could just give up Salamence here to get Iron Bundle in for free and then just click Icy Wind, Make It Rain. Actually, I think I prefer that more. So I'll just Air Slash here and Protect. Like, what's the main argument for keeping Salamence? Because their last one is going to be one of Politoed, Basculegion, or Amoonguss. If I had to guess, it'd be Politoed. Maybe it's Not Swift Swim Basculegion. Gothitel's the last one would be really weird. Salamence, like, the only point of really switching it out and back in is Intimidate on Arcanine or conserving it for Amoonguss, but Gholdengo walls Amoonguss, so I'm not actually just give it up right now to get Bundle in for free. Oh, and they don't even Extreme Speed, so I get a free Air Slash and a Thunderous. And we flinch it. Oh, that's awkward, though. I didn't want that to happen. I really wanted Thunderous to get the knockout onto us there. But they end up Flare Blitzing into Gholdengo. I'm worried about, like, a double up on a Gholdengo right now, honestly. That Air Slash came really close to a knockout onto this as well. Like, it looks like a damage roll. So I'm gonna go for an Air Slash here, Dragon Terra, and then make it rain. Yeah. That's kind of funny. I do wonder if Thunderous was targeting a Salamence slot. Because I think if you're my opponent, you could go Specs Terra Blast into Gholdengo and Flare Blitz to cover for a defensive Terra. My question then is whether or not that would even KO Gholdengo. Because I think if we get the double knockout here, we're just super well positioned. But I was hoping to conserve my Terra. Yeah, so no Extreme Speed. And nice! Air Slash actually just gets the KO. So Salamence putting on a clinic here. Not every day you would expect to see Salamence get a 1-hit or 2-hit knockout onto a... And they're... Okay, so they're probably Assault Vested on the Hisuian Arcanine, because they changed their attack there. And we don't flinch. Perfect. So single target, make it rain, +2. That's a KO. Excellent. So it's going to be Amoonguss and then one of Gothitelle, Basculegion, or Politoed. I think if it's Politoed or Gothitelle, this game's definitely over, but Basculegion makes this pretty interesting because of Last Respects, right? Okay. I'm happy to bring out Iron Hands with Fake Out Pressure. Bundle's going to be a pretty good last one, given that they already used their Terra. So here's a Amoonguss. Is it Basculegion? No, it's Politoed. Okay, with that, I really don't think you can win, because you just don't have enough offense. Normally, one thing to be worried about in this endgame is something like a Perish Song from Politoed, but I'm happy to just Fake Out into Amoonguss here, and then Nasty Plot again. Cool, Politoed protects. Yeah, their team indexes really heavily on Thunderous and Arcanine for offense, and it's like, this duo just isn't that scary. I think if they had, like, Spored on turn 1 or had Basculegion over Amoonguss, this game would look pretty differently, but this is one of the reasons why Gholdengo is so good, right? It just completely walls Amoonguss, and Nasty Plot Gholdengo loves going up against Amoonguss, because you just get to set up in front of it. So, continue to Nasty Plot up. You already used your Terra as well. We are at +3. I think I'm happy to just Heavy Slam Amoonguss here. And Shadow Ball it. You're just not beating the Gholdengo from this spot, in my opinion. Almost gets the KO there. But no Citrus, which is huge, so Hydro Pump into the Gholdengo, which barely dents us, and Heavy Slam delivers the finishing blow. Cool. But yeah, I think the bundle was really well positioned in this endgame as well, so having more offense thanks to Freeze Dry would have been nice. But yeah, I think if I... You know, what is interesting is if I had brought Amoonguss, I would have switched out Salamence into Amoonguss on turn 1 and Nasty Plot, and they would have gotten the knockout with that Terra Blast, which is really interesting to think about. So I think their play actually made a lot of sense just to try to like knock out my Amoonguss and then use their Amoonguss in the endgame, but the reality is that there's just no clear answer for Gholdengo in this matchup for them, other than, I think, Basculegion, and so the lack of Basculegion made this matchup a lot easier for us. Hisuian Arcanine was scary, but with Dragon Terra, like, you can see how good Dragon Terra is, right? It covers for the fire type attacks from Arcanine, covers for the water type attacks from Politoed and Basculegion, and yeah, helps out against just so many different types across the board. Alright, it has been a pretty wild win streak. You can probably see now why this is one of my favorite teams. So let's see what we've got in this one. Dragonite, Rillaboom, Shampoo, Heatran, Galarian Zapdos, and Dondozo. Galarian Zapdos is really interesting. I've seen Choice Scarf run on that, and obviously that can be pretty annoying for Salamence. Against Shampoo Dragonite, Salamence threatens with just Draco Meteor immediately. I I'm just a little bit worried about leading Salamence into Galarian Zapdos, but I guess I could lead, like, Bundle Salamence, which seems interesting here. I don't hate that. Wide Guard's not that great from Pelipper in this one. Hands feels pretty solid, especially into Heatran, Dondozo, Chien-Pao. I want to try this lead. I don't think I've really gone for it yet. I think it's compelling. The idea is that Bundle just outpaces their team and has Icy Wind pressure, and Salamence can just pick up knockouts. So, for example, I can Icy Wind Draco Meteor into Chien-Pao. Can Icy Wind Draco into Dragonite. Do I bring Gholdengo? Yeah, I think it's still worth bringing. And the reason for that is because Gholdengo can set up really easily in front of grass types, as we've seen previously against Amoonguss, so they have a Rillaboom. And with Dragon Terra, helps out defensively against things like Heatran as well as the Dondozo. Dragon Terra is just so good on Gholdengo in this current metagame. Let's see. Rillaboom and Zapdos. Ooh, okay, this is pretty scary. I just activated Define, and they have Fake Out pressure from... Yeah, this is actually probably one of the worst leads I could have put up here. Something like Iron Hands Gholdengo would have worked out totally okay here. Okay. What do I want to do? Another thing to think about is if I Icy Wind, that also activates Defiant. I think protecting and, say, switching out into Hands is one option. I could even go like Flying Terra and just Air Slash Zapdos on turn 1, but I think they could easily obviously just fake out Salamence right now and double up into it, and that would feel like a complete waste of a Terra. I think protecting going to Gholdengo is also okay, because Galarian Zapdos generally uses flying and fighting type attacks, and Gholdengo is pretty good defensively right now. So, yeah. Nice lead by them. I think I was leading in a way to try to beat things like Chien-Pao Dragonite. They're going to commit their Terra immediately, so that's good information to get out already. It's going to be on Zapdos. Ghost Terra Zapdos. Okay. That makes sense defensively. I'm really curious about the item on that. Like Scarf, Assault Vest, Life Orb, Band. All viable here. I went for Fake Out. Yep, into the Salamence slot. And Brave Bird. Nice double up. But we take less than half, which is really good. Okay. What do I want to do now? I could Icy Wind Shadow Ball, but I'm a little bit worried about you being Scarfed, because then you still outpace Gholdengo. Okay, I'm gonna Freeze Dry Zapdos and Shadow Ball it here, I think. Ooh, that looks like Assault Vest to me, given that damage output. But we survive Brave Bird, which is huge. Okay, nice. And I just get the knockout. Alright, not bad. I'm happy with that outcome. Yeah, being able to actually survive the +1 Brave Bird on the bundle is also pretty nice. And they just double up onto it. Cool. I think a Wood Hammer there may have just gotten the KO. I'm not sure, actually. -1 Wood Hammer. It depends on the item, maybe. But this is fine. I have gotten rid of my opponent's Terra. Gholdengo heals back significant amounts thanks to leftovers and grassy terrain. And it's a free switch in now into... I could pivot in Salamence or Hands. Given that they used their Terra already, I think it's probably okay to go into... Well, what do we think they have in the back, right? Heatran, Chien-Pao, Dragonite are all options. I'll go with Hands here, because I know you can't Ghost Terra at this point, so it's a relatively free Fake Out Nasty Plot. If you bring in a physical attacker, I could just pivot Hands out into Men's. Stun Dozo. Okay, that's fine. I think Dozo's going to struggle against the Gholdengo here. I don't know if you're oblivious or unaware, so that's part of my questioning, but I think here I'm happy to just go for Fake Out onto Rillaboom and just Nasty Plot. Okay, there's the Fake Out. We also have the faster Gholdengo, which is really nice. I just don't want to get hit by a super effective attack onto that slot, so Rillaboom flinches, and yeah, they just go for Yawn, which is fine. Like, Gholdengo is just so good against these Pokemon that are a little bit more passive, because I don't care about you spreading Yawn if I can just set up with Nasty Plot, right? So, in this spot, I think I'm happy to pivot into Salamence right now. I don't know if my Make It Rain actually gets the KO. So I'm thinking about Nasty Plotting again. I haven't used my Terra yet either. What do we think their last one is going to be? Dragonite, Chimpa? I would guess Heatran personally. So I think Iron Hands is also super well positioned right now. I'm happy to switch in Immense and just Shadow Ball Rillaboom here, I think. Another Intimidate onto Rillaboom. So Rillaboom's damage should really be not very large. We'll see if it's Oblivious or Unaware Dondozo here. Okay. Good to confirm that. Which is fine, like, Dondozo without being able to Terra is just not too scary, and yeah, at +2, we just actually knock out Rillaboom. My goodness, that's so strong. And they just go for Yawn again. It's like, you can keep clicking Yawn, but how are you ever dealing with the Gholdengo at this point, right? So, their last one's going to be one of Chien-Pao Dragonite, or the... What was their final one? Chien-Pao Dragonite, Heatran. I think Heatran makes the most sense here, but Iron Hands is really well positioned into that, and they actually just bring out Chien-Pao, which is totally fine to see. I think the main thing to worry about is just like Sucker Punch from that. I'm happy to just pivot out into Iron Hands here. And this is interesting actually, like because of Sash on Chien-Pao and because we're Dragon Terra, if I Terra, suddenly I become weak to your ice type attacks. So Chien-Pao's actually a little bit scary to go up against right now. Me switching out here is pretty obvious. But I think having Intimidate still makes it worth switching out. So I'm happy to just switch and protect this turn. Because then I just put on pressure with Fake Out plus Make It Rain next turn. In an ideal spot, I think if Chien-Pao protects here, the game is not 100% over because they can still get a double protect, but then I just click Fake Out, Make It Rain the next turn. So they're not going to end up going for a protect here, which is a nice play by them. Ah, it's Ice Skull Crash reading into Laterra. Definitely can respect that. And Yawn again? Yeah. That's fine. Cool. We've healed back up to full. I'm happy to just pivot Hands Out into Salamence here. Terra and Make It Rain. The reason why I wanted Terra now is because my opponent just revealed they were willing to play aggressively, right? Also, they might just protect the Chien-Pao here, and if they protect, then I get an Intimidate off, and then I can just, like, Tailwind, for example, or just Air Slash Make It Rain. But with Intimidate support here, and my opponent revealing they're willing to make an aggressive prediction, I'm down to just go for the Terra here. I guess the question is whether or not that's necessary, because if the... I think Gholdengo can just survive a Crunch or Sucker Punch that's super effective anyway. So, maybe it was better to just not Terra there. Now that I think about it. They did go for Ice Skull Crash! But, was that onto Gholdengo? No, that was onto the Salamence slot. Okay, so we get a dodge onto that slot. Really nice play by them, though. Unfortunately, I think the miss there secures the game immediately for us, which is just one of the downsides of Ice Skull Crash. No way! I mean, Fisher makes total sense on that set. That keeps my opponent in this one. Okay. Sick. That's really cool. They may have actually honestly just won the game if Ice Skull Crash just hit there because Fisher also connected. But that was the absolute right play to go for. That was a really nice read, because if I just stayed in with hands there and clicked fake out plus make your range, Chien-Pao just faints, even if Fisher connects. Then I guess hands falls asleep, but then they could still win off Fisher. Yeah, because Dondozo's bulky. Anyway, here I think I'm happy to just lock into... Oh, actually, it's fine to lock into Draco because you're unaware. So I'm happy to Draco here and fake out. Okay, wait, but the downside of Draco is it can miss. I think I'd rather have lock into the highest accuracy attack here, which is Air Slash. Yeah. I also think I should have reversed my order there. I should have gone fake out onto Dondozo. I mean, I would expect a double protect here. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I think we're still in good shape here. Because we got Chien-Pao down to Sash. But what a wild turn. The miss into the Fisher connect. That was hype. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm happy to just Air Slash Chien-Pao now and Wild Charge into Dondozo. Part of me actually wants to double up onto Dondozo. Because I'm worried about Fisher. And I want to take advantage of Chien-Pao dropping Dondozo's defense, but yeah, I think I'll just target Dozo here. Air Slash doesn't miss, which is nice. Cool. If they hit this Fisher, they can still win, theoretically. But I don't know, Salamence walls Dondozo pretty well. Oh my gosh, that almost just got a one-hit knockout. Okay, nice. You need to hit Fisher right now in order to win. Otherwise, the game's over. Well, I guess it's not 100% over because you go for Yawn, but the thing is that you can't Fisher into Salamence, and you don't have recovery either. So you have to protect here. But Fisher, Yawn, protect, and Wave Crash. I'm not sure how you ever beat the Salamence at -2 attack, given that you can't actually Fisher into it. So I can't stress how important the flying typing is on Salamence. It's so good against ground type attacks. Fisher's not exactly something you need to be like prepped for, but yeah. Like my opponent's win con is an Air Slash miss into... I don't even really know, honestly. Yeah, and Air Slash just gets the knockout. Cool. If they had hit that Icicle Crash on a Salamence, though, given that turn, it would be a 1v... Like, can Iron Hands win from that position? I think the odds actually become very much in my opponent's favor. So that was a really nice play, because I felt like I had a pretty big advantage in that game, and that one turn, that one miss, and then making that really nice read of just saying I'm going to Icicle Crash and Fisher was a really good play by them. I should have thought about Fisher as their fourth move a little bit more, just because, like, what else would you really be running on that Dondozo set? And so I think I could have predicted that a little bit better. But yeah, I don't know. If I, like, stay in with hands there, they do just end up protecting. Like, if, say, they protect and then Fisher in a Gholdengo and I fall asleep, I actually think I just lose the game from that spot as well. So... really nicely done by my opponent, though, and the Yawn cycling plus Chien-Pao being the last one was actually pretty scary, since it meant that the slot next to Gholdengo was always pressured to switch, and then Gholdengo itself is weak to Chien-Pao both pre-Terra and post-Terra. But what a run of games we've had here. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one, so thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Thank you for the incredible players that put this team together, and hopefully you can see why it's one of my favorite teams right now. We had a very nice win streak across a wide variety of different teams, and it's just really fun to play. It makes Gholdengo in particular look so good, and to be able to use Pokemon like Salamence and Pelipper, I think, is also really fun. So, thanks as always for joining me. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll see you all soon. Alright, peace.